All right, welcome YouTube and welcome to another review for Frieren season two. Sorry, I'm a bit lost in the sauce here. Frieren season two, episode 7. So before I start the review, you can watch as usual the full reaction on Patreon right now for €5 a month, uncut, uncensored, whatever you want, picture in picture. And boy, did I have a lot to say again during this reaction. I always have a lot to say during Frieren reaction, aside from that one time. Well, maybe not every time, but I usually have a lot to say during Frieren reactions because we keep learning so much about the way the characters work, like their personality and stuff like that, and just by their actions and the way they talk. And yeah, like I feel like it was basically the same here. Um, So first and foremost, I have to address the name of the episode, which is the name of the antagonist for this arc. Apparently, from what I've seen, like I've checked after at the end of the reaction, wanted to check the voice actors, which led me to discover that it's basically an arc in a story, the Divine Revolt, which is one of the coolest name I've ever heard for an antagonist, like for an enemy at least. Like that is honestly, it has so much power in just a name that I find it just absolutely impressive. I saw the name of the episode and I was like, okay, that's gonna be cool. That's gonna be great. And it was great. Indeed. Even if it is another setup for yet another cliffhanger to a next episode that will actually have a fight. But I don't mind, it's the way Frieren has done things in the past. You know? Like we have had these setup episodes that didn't really feel dragged on. Actually, like it feels like it's needed to have these moments of preparation and like being ready for the upcoming battle and going to the upcoming battle. Um. All right. So first, Geno. Once again, we learn more about him just through his actions, not simply his words, because he is lying. Geno is a liar, but not in a bad way. He's someone who lies to by hiding his feeling and like hiding behind the face of a cold person when in fact he's like it feels like he really isn't when you look deeper into it. His actions tell more about him than his words. I mean, technically, it's the same for everyone, of course, but like the fact that he pretends to be cold towards Method at first is a sign that he doesn't want to risk becoming attached to her because he knows that it will hurt if he loses her, and also he will probably feel responsible for her. He probably feels responsible for her as his as her senior and basically the one that proctored one of her tests. Um, the whole thing about his companion as well feels like his old partner feels like it's something that will bring the same story as Kimmel regarding Frieren, which is by being around someone who was always there to help and always happy to do so, it will have changed him in a better way. But also, like, yeah, I feel like I think basically what is happening. So I talked about it during the reaction, but I want to cover it here as well. I talked about it extensively. I feel like what Geno is going through is essentially like the same kind of deal as when you become so accustomed to a smell that you no longer smell it, or you get so accustomed to a noise that you no longer hear it. It becomes part of the background of something that your senses doesn't don't need to make you aware of anymore, because it's something that feels like it's always there for you, like it's always there, so it's part of the universe around you. And I think that's what happens here with Geno's emotions. It's that it's not that he doesn't feel loss, he doesn't feel sadness. It's that he's become so accustomed to it that he doesn't realize that he's sad anymore. He doesn't realize that he's hurt by losing people and losing places that he loves. But subconsciously, it's still there. Even if he doesn't realize that he feels that, like if he doesn't realize that it's still there, he's still feeling it in some way. And that is something that is translated into his actions. Because he says himself, I don't know why I decided to stay here and protect the bodies, but that's because like to me at least, that's how it seems. It's because he actually still feels something regarding all of these people and all of that happened in that village, and that basically like his mind is automatically making him do something, even if he doesn't know why. It's because he is sad and he's hurt by about losing these people. And once again, like it's Geno is a very complex character hidden behind the face of a cold um, calculator. Like he's way more complex than that. He's just trying to hide it, and he's trying to hide it to protect himself and possibly protect others as well. Like he probably has a sense of he may at least have a sense of, if I show my emotions and it would mean I show vulnerability and weakness, it might affect the morale of my team. So to make sure that they stay focused and alert, I need to keep that facade. But in reality, that's not exactly who he is. Like I really hope we end the arc with him surviving and actually showing something. Like I hope that's something that we get here. Although like he has been written, I'm gonna have to say it as well. These past two episodes, he has been written as a character meant to die. Like there are so many red flags that have been put all around him. The fact that we get to learn more about him suddenly, despite him literally just being a test proctor in the past, not in the first season. Suddenly, we learn a lot more about him, about his past. We like uh, we see basically like through his mind in some way, and he shows that he is powerful and stuff like that. Like it feels like he's written to be killed, like to be killed protecting. I mean, while protecting Stark, killed by the Divine Revolt. That's how it feels, at least. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. Next we have the topic of so from what I've seen when I looked up the voice actors, Yoon. Yoon, who is the small demon girl who seems very interested in humans, which I know I said in the past, like this show doesn't need to have, like it's good that the show doesn't have a trope of, oh, that demon might be our ally or something. But it makes sense that at least one demon, and apparently one another demon as well, does that. but that at least one demon is interested in learning more about humans. It does make sense because that's their nature. One of their natures is to constantly improve themselves through experiments and stuff. So curiosity has to be a part of how they grow up. So of course it would lead to some of them potentially being curious about their prey. Even if like she's part of the force that massacred villages, so obviously she doesn't feel any remorse about killing humans. It's not what we need here. We just need some scientific curiosity, which is more than enough. And apparently, she's not going to be part of the fight. At least I don't think so. I feel like before the fight started, the um, divine revolt gave her um like the location of that other demon, and she left. Unless she's, of course, an ace in a hole in a village or in the forest. She might be one of the most dangerous here. Um, yeah. So speaking of the divine revolt, like his power seems to be like basically everything about him is made to be powerful and dangerous. The ability to change the weight and sharpness of his blades and creating them out of mana seems to make him a very unpredictable foe, which immediately makes him way too dangerous. And his form makes him like basically he can be really fast and evade easily. So yeah, very formidable foe. Um okay. And next we have the whole method um wanting to pat Frieren and Hooker. I can see the memes coming. Come on. That's gonna be a thing. That's probably already a thing. And definitely gonna be a thing when I post that video. I don't know when. Um what else? Sorry. My brain is trying to focus and it cannot do it properly because I'm kind of tired. It's like 2 a.m. It's usually around the time I go to sleep. But yeah. And so the other two demons fighting our group here seem to be quite powerful on their own. Um, like the very fact that one of them has a blindfold, aside from the Divine Revolt, the other one has a blindfold during a fight means that it's she's probably like fighting by sensing her opponents rather than watching them, looking at them. So she relies more on her detection than anything else. Than anything else, she might be a good match for Method based on what we saw during the second test when he went to fight Fern's um, body double. But yeah, and one thing that I brought up during the episode as well that I really want to talk about here. I really love the uniqueness of each demon because usually when in a story like this, when you have a war against an enemy force like that with that forms an army basically, even if it's demons, usually you always have like at least a part of them that are like pawns basically and peons that almost all look the same. Uh, they almost all look the same and are just like thrown as cannon fodder and stuff like that. But here it's not the case. Every demon is very unique because they each specialize in something. And so basically, like, it allows for a lot more diversity in each enemy, which is probably what made them so formidable as enemies during the war, because they're so unique. So you can't put one strategy that will work for every single demon. And that's what we see basically here. It's like they have to adapt to each demon individually based on that demon's skills and spells and specialization. I'm also glad that um, Frieren brought up the fact that the flying spell is not actually doesn't actually count as a specialization, since demons specialize in one spell um, during their entire life. But flying to them is kind of like working for us. So I'm guessing it might have been something that was brought up by the community as a potential flaw in the writing, which I could see, of course. Um, and the anime needed to make it clear, but it's not in fact a flaw in the writing. It's more a specificity because yeah, they don't do like they do that naturally, essentially. But yeah, like overall, a very strong episode. I cannot tell yet if it's setting up for an end of the arc next episode, or if we are gonna get that arc throughout the remaining of the season, which is highly possible. Of course, like I feel more like the last episode of the season would be one similar to season one, where like um, it's basically a goodbye to the season. Like we end things up, we wrap things up a bit, and that's it. Sorry, having trouble like breathing for some reason. But yeah, it feels like I think it might last for the rest of the season because apparently it's an arc. Divine Revolt is an arc in and of itself, and given the what I've like I just saw like character pictures co- corresponding to the next arc. It seems like it would be one that would take longer, so it would probably be reserved for the next season. So I think we might have that arc spread across the rest of the season. But yeah, um, I think that's what I had to say about this. I think that's what I had to say. Yeah, didn't have anything else to mention or comment about. Very solid still, like the show keeps giving. I'm really glad of that. I still love that show with all my heart, and yep, hope it continues to stay good. I know I have to wait a week, more than a week, because I won't be able to record it on the day it releases, and I won't be able to record it on the following days of the release. I'm gonna have to wait like at least 4 days after the release for the next episode to watch it and record it if I want to have a chance at recording it potentially. I don't know actually. Like I might become very busy suddenly. I will see. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this review. Once again, you can watch the full reaction on Patreon for €5 a month and cut and edit it whatever you want. And yep, I guess I'll see you for episode 8 of Frieren season